Good afternoon, good evening, this is John Paul Ryan. I'm coming to you from Tokyo, Japan. First, I'd like to give a shout out to Flipped Out. He's got a channel of his own, he's been doing some shout outs, some good networking. Check that out if you can. Today, I'm going to get into the fact that recently Lord of the Rings has been called racist, and this is not just recent news, this has been happening since the early 2000s, and the main problem here is people have lost touch with what the word racism means. They've also lost touch with what sexism means, but let's stick with racism right now. So let's go over the definition real quick. A person who shows or feels discrimination or prejudice against other people of races or who believes that a particular race is superior to another. So when you see a lefty site or somebody who's a social justice warrior call out racism or sexism, they're not using the definition of the word correctly. I think a clearer thing to say would be unfair. I guess they think it's unfair that certain colors or genders are being treated the way they are in entertainment and things like that, but racism is not the correct word. So, like I just read, what it basically is it's a statement that a specific race is better than the other. Not just that there's more of one race in a movie or there's a metaphor about darker people or lighter people or women or men. Racism is not about metaphors. Racism is making a claim that one race can do something better than the other race. So let me read a little bit from this article I got from The Statesman. Have never heard of the thing, but this was the best one I found. And during an interview with Wired Podcast, a sci-fi author, Andy Duncan, was asked about a 2001 short story, Senator Bilbo, which riffed on elements of Tolkien's work that he felt could be construed as racist. It's hard to miss the repeated notion in Tolkien that some races are just worse than others, he said, or that some people are just worse than others. I guess he says some peoples. Anyway. Now, like I just said, he has to use the word construed, which means kind of his own take, or another better word I think is metaphor. And, I mean, traditionally, throughout history, it's just dark has been seen as negative and light has been seen as positive. It doesn't literally mean people with dark skin, people with light skin. It's just how it is. It comes from day and night where, humans first started tribalism and the nighttime was a scary time. You couldn't see anything. There was no electricity. And when the light came, it felt good. That's just the fact of the matter. So, yes, in this world there are colors on things, even people, but colors don't necessarily dominate what dictates racism and what isn't racism. So I'm going to jump around just a little bit, and I'll link the full article, of course. Well, I say of course, sometimes I forget, but I'm going to really try to remember this time. I think the link's going to be there. Okay, anyway. Was Tolkien a racist? There are certain elements of his work that are eyebrow-raising to the modern reader. For example, when some of the men from the Isle of Numenor turn out to be rotters, maybe don't call them Black Numorians, JRR, and maybe it's a bit weird that almost all the people from bits that are blatantly meant to be African and Asian are beasties with the Dark Lord. Even if you're going to start yelling, you would never do an analogy, a habit to which Tolkien was frequently prone. So when he says African and Asian, or Africa and Asia, whatever he says, how can you tell that Tolkien meant for this to symbolize African people and Asian people? How do you know? There's just no way. It's your own metaphor, it's your own opinion, it's your own take on it. So every single sentence that ends with Lord of the Rings was racist should begin with my opinion is, or I think this because I'm just taking a guess. You have no idea. So the worst thing is when these people state their opinions as facts, basically. It's not a fact. And as far as like the Black Numerians, like I just said, yeah, there's skin tone with people. Some people end up being called black or white, and it's a color. It's just, it's silly to make these things out to be racist when they're just classic tales that really have nothing to do with racism at the core and what they're saying. So now let me get into sexism real quick, and I don't like to do this, but I just feel the need to have to at this point. Sexism is when you say that a woman can't do something a man can do, or a man can't do something a woman can do. Or if you blatantly say you don't like someone just because of their gender. Sexism is not having men as lead roles in movies, even if it's 100 fucking decades in a row. It's not sexism. You could say it's unfair. You could say it's imbalanced. It's not necessarily sexism. If those movies had men saying women can't do certain things and showing men do things women could not do, that would be sexism. Simply having men in movies or anything or entertainment more than women doesn't necessarily mean it's sexist. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Just so you guys know, these are not fun videos to make and fun videos to talk about. You know, when I figured I'll make YouTube videos, yeah, I hated The Last Jedi and I figured we're going to get into that. But it's just like there's so much crap and really opinions that are spun the wrong way and so much invented bullshit in the media and on the internet. It's just, I can't help but voice my opinion on it, because then what would I be doing? You know, if you have a channel or some kind of platform and you're just saying, well, I'll just keep my mouth shut and I'll just stick to the entertainment and that's it. Well, I don't know. I guess that's cool. We have plenty of channels and TV stations and whatever for that. But personally, I gotta speak my mind. I'm gonna mostly do entertainment, but when something's really wrong, if we don't use our voice with the platform we have, even if it's small, then nothing gets done. And the world just keeps going into the shitter, I guess you could say. Anyway, please consider subscribing here. Community is growing little by little. I have a Patreon that I open with a few kind of cool tiers, stuff like that. Check that out. And I talked too long. I will see you next time.